Hey, Scott Sambucci here. Listen, I want to break down something I've been thinking about the last couple of weeks because I think this time of year it's a particularly important topic. And what I want to talk about today is transactional time versus impactful time. And so the genesis of this for me over the last couple of weeks, just like a lot of you, I've been thinking about the last year, thinking about what I've done really well and where I would like to improve, what I'd like to change in the future, in the year coming up. And so I was at dinner this weekend with my wife and just doing that reflection out on date night. And one of the things that I said to her is like, despite how well everything went this past of is spending time doing transactional activities. And I mean by that, when I'm talking about transactional activities or transactional time versus impactful time, if you look at the work that you do as a leader at your company, so it's the work you're doing with your team, it's the work that you're doing within your company, it's the work you're doing with your customers, with your clients, and also think about the work and the time that you're spending with yourself. Ask yourself how much of the work that I'm doing is actually just transactional activities. And what I mean by that, when I think of a transactional activity, I think of it as an activity that happens once and is not repeatable. And so economists even talk about transaction. There's some kind of friction. So if I need to go, buy something at the store, if I drive to Target or I drive to Whole Foods and I want to buy something from those stores, there's a cost to that transaction, and I have to drive there. So that driving. And so further, like when I think about transactional time, the transactional time or activities are things that I'm spending time on that are just a one-time activity. And so I felt like when I look back at last year, there are too many times where the once transaction sort of disappears, it just kind of dissipates. It goes ephemeral in a lot of ways. Instead, what I want to do is think about whenever I'm engaging in any activity and doing any kind of work or completing any kind of task, how can I turn that transaction, what could be a transactional time or a transactional cost, into an investment that turns the transactional interaction into an impactful interaction? How do I turn transactional time into impactful time? So let me give you a couple of examples. So if I'm working with my team and something that documents are correct, and so what I could be doing instead of just doing that one time and letting that work go ephemeral is instead I could be recording that and then handing that to the team and saying, now going forward, this is what you need to do when we send out contracts so that I don't need to do it. And now that time becomes more impactful in the sense that I've done it once, but it's going to affect future requests on that activity. Such as a really, really micro level example. But if we expand that further and we think about your customers and we think about your company, whenever you're interacting with customers, like you're adding a feature request for that customer, is that feature request a one-time transactional feature request for that customer? Or is it really something that is impactful that could be used for lots of customers down the road? As you're making decisions about your hiring, are you taking even a transactional viewpoint in a short-sighted way and saying, well, look, gosh, we really, really need this salesperson. We need to fill this sales role, this SDR spot or this account executive spot or this customer success team spot or this marketing person. And even though this person might not be the ideal candidate, we've got to get somebody in here right away. And so what that ends up doing is, in some ways, you're making a permanent transactional decision, because if that person is less than ideal and that person doesn't work out, you're going to have to replace that person, or you're going to have to invest a lot of time and energy to train that person to do that job. And maybe that person won't be able to do that job over time anyway, in which case that decision you made, that activity you made on hiring, even though it could be a 3-month or 6-month or even longer transaction, it still is transactional, because you're going to have to displace the way that you're recruiting the talent, the way that you're interviewing and assessing your talent, and saying, well, how do I create a system that is more impactful for the company so that when I am seeking the new talent that I'm going to bring into my team, I can do it in a way to make sure that the people I bring on have a very, very high probability of being successful. So it's another example of being transactional versus impactful, but at a much larger scale that you might not think of when you're running your company. And so this is a sort of an open question that I've got for myself. And this is something I'm going to be working on over the course of the coming weeks and months and throughout the course of the whole year. Even the transactional tasks, making them transactional, and how can I transfer or transmogrify the transactional task into being impactful, so that whether it's reviewing a contract or coaching a client, instead of just giving one client one answer for one question, how do I instead make sure that I'm sharing that question and that answer with the entire group, to make sure that it's not just a transaction where I'm helping that one person one time, but do I help that person not just the one time they have this question, but for all future situations that they have that are similar to that question they have around sales or revenue or growth. And even further, how do I make sure that when that one client asks the question, we can reach out to the other 30, 40, 50, 100 clients that we're supporting? And so, so this is an open question for me. It's something I'm going to be working on. It's something I challenge you to work on as well, as a sales leader, as a company leader, as a leader of your organization, and as a leader of yourself, making sure that the work that you're doing is not just transactional, because sometimes the transactional is easy to do. It's fast to do. So I'd love to hear some more. I'm going to continue to develop this over the course of the coming weeks and months, and I'll share more. So that's it for now. Happy New Year. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.